Hi friends, this is Miss Yim. I wanted to give a shout out to Ariani. Take a look at her journal. As you can see, she wrote about the different animals that lived in the Arctic habitat. She also included beautiful pictures that go with her sentences. All of the teachers are looking forward to your best work, okay? So make us proud and let's get started. Check for understanding. Friends, what does it mean if an animal or plant is adapted to its habitat? Pause and talk. If an animal or plant is adapted to its habitat, it means that the animal or plant is able to live and survive in that habitat. Scientists have discovered that plants and animals take a long time to adapt to their environment. Can you name some animals or plants that you learned about in the read aloud and describe how they're well adapted to their habitat? Pause and talk. Today's read aloud is about what happens to living things when their habitats change. What do you think will happen to an animal or plant if its surroundings change? Pause and talk. Can you imagine? What would happen if it got hot in the Arctic and all the snow and ice melted? Would the muskox's heavy fur coat help it in the hot weather? Would the Arctic hare's white coat still help it blend in? Would walruses and seals still have a use for all that blubber? We learned that blubber, heavy fur, and camouflage are all ways that Arctic animals have adapted to cold weather. Could any of these adaptations make it hard to live in the new hot weather? Why or why not? Pause and talk. Now, friends, listen carefully to find out how habitat changes have affected the bald eagle. Rattenborough here, delivering the final installment of our exciting habitats adventure. We have traveled all around the world, looking at some of the different habitats where plants and animals live. A lot of those habitats, such as the Arctic and the Sonoran Desert, have climates to which you and I would have had a tough time adapting. Remember that climate means the type of weather a place has over a long period of time. How would you have a tough time adapting to the Arctic, to the desert? Pause and talk. As we've seen, however, there are different living things in each habitat we have visited. Because some living things are so well adapted to the specific conditions of their specific habitats, any large change in their surroundings could make it hard for them to survive. Just think, what would happen if it got even a little colder in the desert? Some of those animals who are so good at keeping cool wouldn't know how to stay warm. Or, what if it stopped raining in the rainforest? What would happen to all of those plants that need lots of water? Or, what if something happened to disrupt the food chain of a certain animal? If that animal relied on a certain type of a plant or animal to eat, and that food source was taken out of the habitat, that animal would no longer have food it needs to survive. Some habitats change because the temperature or the weather changes. But unfortunately, people often affect habitats as well. Whether they realize it or not, people can make it very difficult for plants and animals to survive. From cutting down trees or starting forest fires to dumping dangerous waste and chemicals into our rivers, people's actions can endanger lots of species of plants and animals. To endanger plants and animals means to put them in a dangerous situation. So people's actions can harm or even kill lots of plants and animals. Sometimes, people's actions destroy entire habitats. To destroy something means to completely ruin it. For example, someone walking in a forest might light a match and drop it, and then the whole forest might burn. Here the word match means a thin piece of wood with a special tip that produces a fire. Even if they were not harmed by the fire itself, many animals that used to live in trees would no longer have a place to live. When they lose their homes, animals find it much harder to continue to live in a particular habitat. If they can't find new places to live, the animals would not survive. After a while, there will be fewer and fewer of these kinds of animals alive in the wild. When that happens, we say that they become an endangered species. A species is a group of living things that have similar characteristics. So an endangered species is a group of living things that could die out completely. We say these species are endangered for a good reason. They are in danger of extinction. Extinction means the end of a species because all of its members have died. An animal or plant that is extinct has died out and does not exist anywhere in the world anymore. Check for understanding. What did you learn about in the history of Earth that are extinct? Pause and talk. The answer is dinosaurs. I'm on a mission to tell you about one animal that can teach us a lot about endangered species and how to save them. I have come here to Washington State in the northwestern part of the United States to show you an amazing bird called a bald eagle. Look up at that tree there, and you will see one of these eagles perch on the very top branch. You may recognize the bald eagle because it is one of the national symbols of our country. Drawings of the eagle appear as a symbol on American money and in many other places. Believe it or not, the bald eagle was almost extinct in the United States several years ago. If that had happened, there would be no bald eagles still living. So, we're grateful to be able to spot this bald eagle today. Bald eagles are scavengers, but they also eat rats and other small animals. So, I'd better stay out of the way. What is a scavenger? Pause and talk. A scavenger is an animal that eats meat and waste left by other animals. I think that the bald eagle looks very grand, don't you? This statement means the bald eagle looks impressive or is admired because of its size and importance. It is covered with dark brown feathers, and its head and tail are both white. Bald eagles are some of the largest birds living in this country. They can grow up to 3 feet tall, which is almost as tall as a first grader. Wow! This one has just taken off into the air, and you can see that it has huge wings. In fact, their wings can spread to about 8 feet in length. While this eagle is flying around, let me tell you more about these special birds. There used to be thousands of bald eagles in the United States, but farmers started to hunt them because they thought the eagles were killing their farm animals. Then, later, people started to cut down the trees in which the eagles built their nests to make way for roads, houses, and shopping malls. Do you think it caused problems when people cut down trees that the eagles used to build their nests in? Why or why not? Pause and talk. With fewer places for them to make their homes, eagles found it harder and harder to survive, and they started to die out. Soon, there weren't many bald eagles left in the whole United States. People started to notice that there were fewer and fewer bald eagles, and they decided to find out why. Check for understanding. Why do you think the eagles were dying out? Pause and talk. One idea is that there weren't many places for bald eagles to make their homes, so they couldn't survive. Scientists began to study the eagles, and they discovered 2 things. When scientists discover things, they learn new information. The first was that a lot of eagles didn't have enough room to build their nests. Eagles do not like to live in the same area as other eagles, so they build their nests far away from each other. They like places that are peaceful, and they need huge, strong trees that can hold nests big enough for the adults and their babies to live. The scientists discovered that the eagles didn't have enough room in the areas where they have been living because people were chopping down trees in order to build more roads and buildings. People were destroying the bald eagle's habitat. The other thing that scientists found out was that something bad was getting into the bald eagle's food supply. Farmers sometimes use chemicals to keep bugs from eating their crops. One chemical, though, made the eggs that the eagles laid much thinner and easier to break. Because of this, Many eagle eggs were breaking before they could hatch. No one knew before then that the chemical was hurting the eagles, but it was. Luckily, the scientists found out which chemical was harming the eagles' eggs. Using the scientists' information, the United States government made laws to protect the bald eagle and its habitat so that the eagle's food no longer contained the harmful chemical. Thanks to these laws, more eagles were born and the numbers of eagles started to rise again. Now, bald eagles have made an amazing comeback, or are once again a thriving species. But people must always be careful to protect their habitat. This bald eagle has returned to its nest up in that tree. Maybe it has some chicks up there that it needs to feed, or maybe it's just trying to keep warm. It is pretty chilly. And speaking of returning to the nest, I'm afraid it's time for me to go home now. I've really enjoyed our trip around the world's habitats, and I hope that you have too. Mrs. Rattenborough and my kids miss me, and to tell the truth, it's been a dangerous expedition for me. I'll be glad to get out of danger and into the safety of my lovely home under the steps. Home sweet home, or maybe I should say, habitat sweet habitat. Check for understanding. What is an endangered species and what is extinction? Pause and talk. Endangered species are a group of living things that could die out completely. And extinction is the end of species because all of its members have died. Hi friends, I hope you enjoyed this story because now we're going to answer some comprehension questions. I'm going to ask you a question. Please pause the video every single time. Try to respond in a complete sentence just like how you would do it in class. Let's say you're not sure of the answer. Don't worry. Play my video, listen to my response, and try to answer it again using your own words. Okay? Question 1. What can cause a habitat to change? Pause and talk. We learned that the changes in temperature and in weather and people's actions can cause a habitat to change. Question number 2. How do people affect habitats? Pause and talk. In the read aloud, we learned that people can hurt habitats by building cities and roads because they have to cut down the trees. But also, people can protect habitats by making careful laws about where to build and to avoid chemicals that can harm animals like the bald eagle. Question number 3. What reasons are given in the read aloud to support the statement that eagles were becoming endangered? Pause and talk. One reason is eagles didn't have enough space to build their nests. Also, there was chemical in their food supply, making their eggs very breakable. In the read aloud, you heard, sometimes people's action destroy entire habitats. Say the word destroy with me. To destroy something means to completely ruin it. If I built a big tower of blocks, I could destroy it by knocking it over. What are some ways you can help to not destroy a habitat? Pause and respond. You could say, by not littering, I will not destroy a habitat. What's the word we've been talking about? Destroy. I'm going to give you several examples of people doing things. If the action describes someone destroying something, say, that would destroy, If it doesn't, say, that would not destroy, Tearing up your homework. That would destroy my homework. Coloring in your coloring book. That would not destroy the coloring book. Throwing a glass cup on the floor. That would destroy the glass. Throwing a sandwich into a puddle. That would destroy the sandwich. Hi friends, does this idea web look familiar? You've created one in the History of the Earth domain. Remember that idea web is a way to organize information about a certain topic. The topic is listed in the middle of the idea web. And additional information about the topic is added using smaller circles connected to the main circle. If you have your knowledge book, please turn to 9.1. If you don't have your knowledge book, it's okay. You can open up to a blank page on your habitat journal, then write endangered species in the middle like how it is in this picture. I'm going to share one idea with you. Let me think. What did I learn about endangered species? Well, I know that endangered species are a group of living things that could die out completely. So, let me add that to my idea web. I wrote down group of living things that can die out, and then I drew an arrow to connect my ideas. Since this is an idea web where you list your ideas, you don't really have to use complete sentences. You can also include just words that are related to endangered species. Please include at least 3 ideas onto your idea web. Before I go, I want to say thank you, friends, for working super hard at home. Your teachers are also working hard so we can give you the best education we can. Let's get through this together. Bye!